AI video generation has reached a strange point. Creating a realistic face is no longer the biggest challenge. The real challenge is keeping that same person alive across an entire story. A single Kling AI shot can look incredible. The face can be detailed, realistic, and almost impossible to separate from real footage. But what happens when that same character needs to appear again and again? A different camera angle, a new expression, a darker scene, a completely different environment. That is where AI models are truly tested. For this experiment, I created one character and pushed Kling through 10 different movie-style scenes. The goal was simple. After all those changes, would the person in the final shot still look like the person from the first frame? Not just similar, the same identity, the same eyes, the same facial structure, the same character. Because in filmmaking, a character is not created in one perfect image. A character has to survive an entire journey. And the biggest weakness of AI video might not be generating a face. It might be remembering one. The reason this test is so difficult comes down to how AI actually creates a face. Kling is not remembering a person the way a human would. It is not storing a complete identity and simply placing that same person into every new scene. Instead, it is rebuilding the character each time using the information available from the reference image, the prompt, and the visual patterns it has learned. That means every change creates a new challenge. A small camera rotation can affect facial proportions. Different lighting can change how the eyes, nose, or jaw appear. A new expression can slightly reshape the face. Individually, these changes may be almost impossible to notice. But across multiple scenes, those tiny differences begin to accumulate. This is why character consistency is one of the biggest problems in AI filmmaking. A character might look perfect in one shot, then slowly become a different version of themselves as the story continues. And that is exactly what makes the 10-scene test interesting. The question is not whether Kling can create one realistic face. The question is whether it can protect that identity when everything around it keeps changing. The first 3 shots reveal the most important question. Does Kling actually understand that this is the same character? Or is it simply creating 3 similar-looking faces? At the beginning, the results are surprisingly strong. The character maintains the same overall appearance, with matching facial structure, hairstyle, and key features. If these shots were viewed separately, it would be difficult to notice any major difference. But consistency becomes more interesting when the shots are compared side by side. In the second and third generations, small changes begin to appear. The shape of certain features shifts slightly. The expression creates subtle differences. And the face starts adapting to the new scene instead of perfectly preserving the original identity. These changes are not failures. In fact, they are exactly the type of variations that make AI character consistency difficult. The first 3 shots show that Kling has a strong starting point. It can create a convincing character and maintain that identity through simple changes. But the real challenge has not started yet. The moment the camera moves away from the comfortable front-facing view, Kling will have to prove whether it truly understands the character or whether the face only works from one angle. That comfortable starting point disappears the moment the camera begins to move around the character. A front-facing shot gives Kling a lot of information to work with. The eyes, facial structure, and overall proportions are clearly visible. But a different angle forces the model to recreate parts of the face that were hidden before. This is where consistency becomes much harder. In the next shots, the character is viewed from different perspectives, and the results reveal how well Kling can maintain the same identity. The overall resemblance remains strong, but small details begin to shift. The jawline changes slightly, facial proportions adjust, and certain features look different depending on the angle. The interesting part is that these changes do not immediately break the illusion. The character still feels like the same person, but when the shots are compared directly, the differences become easier to notice. This is the exact challenge AI video models face. Creating one believable face is easy. Keeping that face believable from every direction is where the real test begins. And the camera angle was only the first obstacle. The next challenge would combine movement, emotion, and changing light the conditions where even small inconsistencies become impossible to hide. The real pressure begins when the character has to do more than simply exist in different positions. A face can survive a camera change, but expressions, lighting, and movement create a much harder challenge. A smile changes the shape of the cheeks and mouth. Strong shadows can make features appear different. Even a simple head movement forces Kling to rebuild the character while trying to preserve the original identity. In these scenes, the results become more revealing. Kling still maintains a strong connection to the original character, but small inconsistencies start appearing. The eyes may look slightly different, facial details can shift, and certain expressions feel like new interpretations rather than exact continuations. These changes are subtle enough that a viewer watching one scene alone might never notice them. But when all the shots are placed together, the question becomes clearer. Is Kling truly keeping the same person? Or just creating convincing versions of that person? The halfway point of the test would reveal whether those small changes were temporary variations or the beginning of a larger identity drift. Halfway through the test, the answer starts becoming clearer. Kling is not perfectly preserving every detail, but it is doing something important. The character still feels connected to the original version. The changes are noticeable, yet they have not completely broken the illusion. The face is adapting, but it is not losing its identity. This is where many AI models struggle. A single impressive shot is easy. Maintaining a believable character across multiple scenes is the real challenge. At this stage, Kling proves it can handle normal changes, but the remaining shots will push it into much more difficult situations. The question now is not whether Kling can create the same face. It is whether that face can survive when the test becomes truly demanding. The remaining shots are where Kling faces the real pressure. Earlier scenes tested basic changes, but now the character has to survive more extreme conditions, wider angles, more complex movement, and scenes where less of the original face is visible force Kling to rebuild more information while trying to preserve the same identity. This is where small errors become much easier to notice. A slight change in the eyes, a different facial proportion, or a small shift in the jaw can completely change how viewers perceive the character. The face may still look realistic, but realism is not the goal anymore. The goal is recognition. After several generations, Kling is no longer being judged on whether it can create a good-looking face. It is being judged on whether that face still belongs to the same person we started with. And the next two shots would reveal whether Kling truly maintained that identity, or if the character had slowly changed along the way. By shot 8 and 9, the results finally show whether Kling can hold on to the character after everything the model has been forced to handle. The face is no longer being tested under simple conditions. Multiple changes have already been introduced, and any small drift from earlier shots has had time to build. Kling still keeps the core identity recognizable. The character's main features remain connected to the original version, even though small differences appear in details like facial structure and expression. This is the important distinction. The face is not perfectly frozen like a copied image, but it still feels like the same person moving through a story. That is the standard AI filmmaking needs. Characters do not need to look identical in every frame. They need to remain believable and recognizable, with only one final shot remaining. The biggest question is whether Kling can finish the entire 10-scene journey without losing the identity it created at the beginning. The final shot gives the answer the entire experiment was designed to find. After 10 different scenes, changing angles, expressions, lighting, and movement, Kling was still able to maintain the identity of the original character. The face was not a perfect copy in every single frame, but the important details remained consistent enough for the character to feel like the same person. The biggest success was not creating a flawless image. It was preserving a believable identity through change. That is the real challenge of AI filmmaking. Characters need to move through different moments, just like real actors do, without feeling like completely different people every time the camera changes. Kling showed that while AI character consistency is not solved completely, it has moved closer to creating characters that can survive an entire story. But the final question remains, does this make Kling the best choice for consistent AI characters? The answer depends on what you need from an AI video tool. Kling proved that it can handle one of the hardest challenges in AI filmmaking, keeping a character recognizable across multiple scenes. It does not completely eliminate identity drift, but compared to the difficulty of the task, maintaining the same person through 10 different shots is a major achievement. However, consistency is only one part of creating great AI films. A complete production also needs strong storytelling, realistic motion, creative camera work, emotional performances, and control over the final result. For creators building stories around recurring characters, Kling is currently one of the strongest options, because it understands that a character is more than just one perfect image. The future of AI filmmaking will not be decided by who creates the most realistic single frame. It will be decided by who can create characters that feel alive, consistent, and believable from the first scene to the last. And this test proves one thing. The biggest breakthrough in AI video is not generating faces. It is making those faces last.